G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to our second official video on this channel, of course, and it is the preview of the round 18 clash with the Western Bulldogs. Ever important for a couple of reasons, which we'll get into shortly. But of course, if you stumbled across us for the first time, feel free to give us a like, give us a sub. Really do appreciate your support. But let's get into all things doggies. And I guess before we do that, we obviously know coming out of last weekend's game against the Giants, they obviously exposed a couple of chinks in the army, you could probably say. But of course, you know, with the cliches, as they say, we'll be better for it going forward in striving for perfection ahead of finals. And I guess, you know, prior to that, we've seen what we're capable of with 5 consecutive wins. We're making strides, making progress over the, I guess, the course of the season. And we're nearly there. Where there is, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, hopefully, first and foremost, it's a top 4 spot, because it's ever important, as we know, as we found out last year, but not that we really needed it. But yeah, it's one of those things. Of course, mentioning from the top what I was referring to, the importance of this game. Obviously, a win is first and foremost, but it's also, as we know, Crippa's 200th game. So, you know, obviously a big milestone for our captain. And it was only yesterday it feels like we drafted him. You know, raw talent, one overlooked by many in his draft year, and exploded to really be the champion that he is today. Brownlow medalist, captain, and a quality player and person. And, you know, I guess one that's been quite storied of how many offers that he's had thrown his way to return home to Perth by both Freo and West Coast during, mind you, some of our darkest years, which spans a fair while, couple of decades at least, which sort of spanned before his arrival. And, you know, for him to turn his back on all those offers time and again and stick with us really does speak volumes to him, as I said, as not only a player but also a person. And, you know, to come away with a win would be monumental in, you know, the course of our season and the scheme of things, where things lay, but also to mark this very special occasion. Before we get into the teams, of course, just wanted to sort of get into the Dogs, where they lie. So I guess the tail of the tape for them is they're pretty Jekyll and Hyde, is what I like to call them. You know, lost to the Hawks, smashed by Port the other weekend, yet they beat the likes of Freo by 67 points, having lost to them previously, and then, of course, beat the Giants on their home deck. So, you know, for them, it's an interesting, different kettle of fish. You know, their last 2 encounters with us, the Dogs beat us by 20. Prior to that, we beat them by 12. I guess the question remains as to which Dogs team do we get? What performance are we going to get from them? Hopefully, it's the I don't know which is the good out of the Jekyll or the Hyde, but hopefully it's the poorer of the two. But what we do know that we'll get is a Dogs team, you know, with their backs against the wall, sitting a win outside top 8, desperate to win and, you know, respond to their big loss to Port. It's going to be interesting. Heading into this, I guess these team sheets. Looking at the VFL, you know, there was Motlop. He kind of threw his hand up, came off 4 goals on the weekend, probably his best performance to date in the VFL, and has actually kicked 8 goals across the last 3 games. So really building a nice, I guess, body of work in the VFL, deserving of some reward. And then, of course, Pitnet, 26 disposals, 6 marks, 33 hitouts, just complete dominance. And we obviously saw against the Giants, TDK really did need some sort of backup just against that bigger-bodied ruckman. You know, I spoke about it in the review video, and yeah, I guess to have a second body there will definitely help. Definitely help. And just with Pitnet, we'll flash up on screen here. Let me just transition across. This is a highlights of his performance for those that haven't seen it in the VFL. So give it a bit of a squeeze. Some solid form and tap work.
Into the ruck again against the much more experienced Pitnet.
Yeah, a few hit outs to advantage, which is obviously nice to see.
Couldn't get boot to ball eventually. In the ruck, Giants, the early leaders here at Blacktown.
Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, tap and then a receive. Kick out wide, beautiful.
I wonder if they've set foot on this ground, either of them. Bitnet tap down.
Yeah, his tap work is elite.
That gave space to the debutant Ollie Batter.
Mind you, I don't know who he was playing against. I mean, it wasn't a ruckman of any sort of senior caliber that I know of.
It was just too shallow, that entry. Bitnet had best position. Carlton had all the action in this second turn. They lead by 7 points. Bitnet the tap, just and Bitnet run at the footy. Bitnet gets round Richards, spills it though, and so he's on the edge of a team that is top 4 at the moment in the AFL. Cunningham.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. No, 1-2. The pit. Oh, how's that? Goal assist. Beautiful. He's doing it all. When he's not tapping it, he's sharking it, kicking it forward. Clearance work. Oh, beautiful. Strong mark. There's Motters. Beautiful goal. Quite a few highlights, must be said. Varied highlights as well. Ah, beautiful marking. Strong marking display from the big fella. Oh, another goal assist, is it? Crippa. Beautiful. Well, that's kind of, what we're expecting and hoping for at senior level. Absolutely incredible. So let me whack up the teams now, and obviously we'll go through those in a bit of detail, ins, outs, everything else, and probably no surprise here as I flick across to the teams that Pitt is in. The Pitt is in, Pitnet. So he's been named starting ruck, and TDK has been named at full forward. So I guess expectations there, they're going to be sharing the load against English. English is quite a formidable ruckman, albeit, must be said, he hasn't been in the best form in recent times. Aside from English, they've obviously got Sam Darcy and Rory Lobb pinch hitting as well. So if it was only TDK, I'd be worried about those guys running him ragged. I think English is kind of the new age ruckman, similar to TDK, can really provide that extra midfielder role, as well as, providing some quality tap work. But I think English actually ended up getting beaten by Jordan Sweet against Port, funnily enough. And for those of you that play Supercoach, of course, would tune into our Supercoach Edge channel. And we've been chatting about English and his interesting form. Despite being beaten by Jordan Sweet, he actually performed quite well in Supercoach-wise, which was quite interesting. But, kicked a couple of goals and whatnot. But that's, I guess, the one thing we need to be mindful about with Tim English is that he has that capability of drifting forward and sneaking a couple of goals here and there. I think he's in the top 4, maybe top 3 in terms of ruckmen that have kicked the most goals for the season. I think TDK is up there as well, naturally, but with Mark Pitnet in there, it really does help a bit of variability in our game plan. So it's good to see him in there personally, even though English isn't that big bustling body that we've faced over the past couple of weeks in Briggs and Nank, but a bit of a 1-2 punch hopefully there. Interesting to see Jesse Motlop didn't make the starting team, but I think he's close, and it probably speaks volumes to our, I guess, the strength of our starting team, the fact that he can't work his way into the team. And watching Blue Abroad, of course, Terry, he mentioned a similar thing that, it's, if it was a Carlton side of like 2-3 seasons ago, Motlop probably would have been a straight in after his return from, injury layoff. So really does speak volumes there to our depth and the fact that he's got to really work his way into the team, despite coming off 4 goals on the weekend. With the other in, of course, Marchbank, comes in for the injured McGovern. I think it's a hip. I think he might have hurt. And then Orazio is omitted, which is interesting because I'm not a massive fan of Orazio, must be said. Don't know what he provides outside of, I know he's been playing higher up the ground and whatnot. And, I mean, he's not kicking goals. When he's not kicking goals, you've got to be that pressure forward, albeit, obviously, against the Tigs, kicked, a bag of goals. So that was good to see, but after one down game, it was interesting to see that he's been omitted, despite the fact that he had a poor run of games leading up to the Richmond game and was able to keep his spot. So kind of makes sense, though. I guess we need to drop someone outside of Orazio. The only player I think that could have made way is Ollie Hollands. Must be said, I reckon he was one of our poorer players against the Giants. I mean, there's a few. He wasn't the only one, of course, but yeah, just in terms of, it wasn't just last weekend, it was games leading into that as well. I just find as if he's lost his touch a little bit, and it wouldn't have surprised me to see him go out of the side to really regain some form in the seconds, and thought maybe perhaps Huey might have come in off the back of that and taken Ollie's spot. But I mean, in terms of the way the team's structured at the moment, it looks incredible. Cottrell, I think, is really that man that we want on the wing, alongside, obviously, Akers on the opposite side, providing that running carry and really playing to both of their strengths. Marchbank back is good to see. I mean, he's kind of... I mean, when he's had a bit of a go, he's been out of the side within a couple of weeks, whether it be due to injury or, someone else being available that was previously injured and just sort of losing his spot. So he gets that through injury to McGovern. So all the best to him, and I'm sure he'll do quite well. Looking at the structure of the Bulldogs side, should speak about their ins as well. Cody Waitman, obviously, first choice, speaks for itself, comes in. Caleb Poulter coming in as well, and then James O'Donnell out injured, and likewise Norton. Poor bloke just came back from a bit of a layoff, and he's out injured already, which I think was due to concussion. I think he got subbed out last week after copping a bit of an errant whack. Interesting though, because I mean, they've lost a tall, they've brought in Waitman, obviously traditional small forward, and Poulter, who's kind of like more of a wingman. So they're virtually not replacing that tall in Norton. But I guess looking at their lineup, they don't really need it. They've got Ugle-Hagan and of course Sam Darcy as their two sort of tall pillars. McRae's sort of interesting. I mean, not much of a threat really up forward, I don't think. But you can classify him as sort of a mid-tier, mid-sized forward. Riley West can play, sort of mid or small. Waitman, obviously small forward, and Vandermeer is a bit of a utility at times. In terms of how we structure up defensively to their forward line, I reckon we should outmatch them. With Kemp, Wiedering and Marchbank, especially, with that extra tall we've got there, we should be able to easily handle a Ugle-Hagan. Knock on wood, of course, hopefully that's the case. And the running carriers in Newman and Sard is going to keep their forward line quite busy as well on the other side on transition. So keep them accountable, which is always a good thing, of course. Chin Cotter, in terms of who he could run with, I don't think he'd be able to go with Bont. Bont's, obviously like in a mould of Crippa, as we know. Tall midfielder, big body. I don't know if Chin Cotter could match him for aerial prowess. So I reckon outside of him, obviously the most damaging player is Bont. I would say outside of him, potentially Ed Richards, I reckon he may run with. But let us know as well in the comment section below who you think he may clamp down on. Treloar maybe as well. Because I reckon Lib is probably going to go to Walshy, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Chincott actually go to Libba, because he's very, very underrated, I reckon, and goes under the radar quite a bit by opposition teams and can absolutely cut you open at the coalface, as we know. As I said, Rory Lobb playing centre half. Interesting because, I mean, Lobb's been playing a bit of a drifting role as well. Can play, as we know, utility, defence, forward. Do they maybe switch things up in game and throw Lobb into the forward line, or maybe into the ruck, and then throw English into the forward line to sort of keep, whether it be Pitt or TDK accountable? Maybe that's strategically something they might exploit. But in terms of their matchup to our forward line, it's going to be interesting. Buku Kamus, Rory Lobb against Charlie and Harry, and another tall, obviously, there in TDK. So, who goes, Caulfield, potentially. That other one, Bradley Dale, obviously, running carry. Bramble, likewise, on the opposite side. Duray, I can't really see being more of that accountable defender, but might have a bit of a hands full with a Fogarty or a Zaki. Just trying to think of switch ups and stuff in game, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see and adjust from there. Obviously, Elijah can play in Fogger's spot there, where he's named. But we've got quite a bit of depth. Just looking at the team in terms of running carry players like Sard, Newman, Boydie, looking pretty good. I guess the only thing that I would change up potentially, as I said, is Georgie Hewitt with Hollands and Motters. I mean, Motters really has to bide his time. There aren't really the defensive pressure that Fogarty provides probably outweighs the attacking advantage that Motlop may give us, which can obviously be provided by Zachy Williams, who's in some really good form at the moment, so kind of plays that role anyway. So yeah, and obviously Matty Owies as well. So we're quite blessed for smalls in defence and smalls up forward, or players that can play that small role. But that's about it, ladies and gents. That's what we're looking at heading into this weekend's game. I'm excited. It's a bit of a test, bit of a challenge for us to bounce back, especially against a team that needs to bounce back themselves. So it's going to be an interesting watch, and fingers crossed we can come out the other side with a W and really catapult our run to the finals and consolidate a top 4 spot, because in terms of where we're at, we all know we're at second spot. We just need to continue winning to maintain our spot at second fiddle. Obviously, Freo and Essendon on our tails. Relatively easy matchup with Freo against the Hawks, who can easily jump over us. And likewise, Essendon as well. Bit of a tougher matchup against the Ds. Bit of a mixed bag for them as well in terms of their form, but a bit of a challenge for them. Despite the Ds being outside the 8, they probably are worthy of being inside the 8 just as much as, the likes of the Giants and maybe the Cats and maybe even the Pies as well. But even having said that as well, even though we've got a superior percentage, which is obviously good to see. And the one thing I've noticed as well is our points for is right up there. It's actually the second best, which I can't remember there being a set. I don't know where we were. I can't remember. You might be able to let us know in the comment section down below. I'll have to check. But in terms of how we placed ourselves last year for points scored for, I know our points against were really good. Like defensively, we were really good. We were right up there, but I can't recall where we were in terms of our points for. But that's really pleasing to see. We've really, I guess, ironed out that part of our game, and would have been more ideal to be a bit more defensive and a bit more restrictive across the board. But it's resulted in us, winning 11 games out of 16 and being literally 2 games off top. So, you can't ask for much more apart from perfection, and that would virtually be what it is. And, we're kind of alongside the pack of, Essendon, Geelong, the Giants, thereabouts in that realm, Collingwood, defensively with our effort there. So, just wanted to sort of point out that really market improvement side of our game, I reckon, is our ability to really put some scores on the board from week to week on a consistent basis. So really good to see. But outside of that, ladies and gents, that is us for the preview for round 18 against the Western Bulldogs. So as I said, big test, big challenge. We'll see how we go. I'll be there live as I always am, even if it is an away game. Always got to be there if it's a game in Melbourne. So I hope to see you there, fellow baggers, cheering us on. Cheering on Crippa as well. Hopefully we can get a win for him, as I said. And to round things out, as I said, if you've stumbled upon us, give us a support. If you're a fellow bagger, give us a like, give us a sub, all that sort of stuff. And, as I said, really have to put thanks to Terry from Blue Abroad. He's a massive inspiration. And we both got to chatting on Twitter. And as it turns out, we had no idea, but we actually grew up in the same suburb as each other. So, small world, very, very small world. A couple of fellow baggers there. But no, I can't thank you enough, Terry. Really do appreciate your work that you put out. And it really is a massive inspiration that I draw a lot from. So with that, ladies and gents, all the best, and all the best to the baggers, of course. Hope to see you there at the game, cheering us on, cheering on Crippa. And we'll catch you in the next one. All the best, and go baggers. Cheers.